In a small hospital in the suburbs of Chicago, a 6-year-old girl named Emily sat nervously in the waiting area. Her father, a man named Mark, sat beside her, but the way she looked at him was filled with fear and uncertainty. Clutched in her small hands was a crumpled piece of paper on which she had drawn a figure in a white coat, with red eyes and a syringe dripping liquid. It was not the innocent doodle of a child, it was something much darker. "Emily Johnson," called a nurse, breaking the tense silence. Emily flinched, pressing the drawing tightly to her chest. Mark stood up, his voice lacking warmth as he said, "Come on, Emily." She rose slowly, still holding the drawing, her eyes darting nervously toward the nurse. As they passed the reception desk, Nurse Kate, who had been working at the hospital for years, watched them closely. Something felt off. The trust that should have existed between a father and daughter was absent. The door to the examination room swung open, revealing Dr. Victor Orloff, a man in his 50s with a welcoming smile. "Hello there. What seems to be the problem?" he asked. Mark spoke first, explaining that Emily had been experiencing stomach pain for 2 weeks and had a fever. She was restless at night. Dr. Orloff turned his attention to Emily. "Where does it hurt the most, Emily?" She merely nodded, remaining silent, her grip on the drawing tightening. "Maybe she ate something bad?" Dr. Orloff suggested, but Emily whispered, "Mommy said, don't." The room fell silent. Mark's face tensed, but he quickly forced a smile. "She's been having strange dreams lately," he added, his tone betraying no concern. "Mommy passed away last year," Emily said quietly, her eyes downcast. Dr. Orloff's expression shifted to one of concern. Something was clearly wrong. The girl's behavior, Mark's cold demeanor, and the drawing in her hands painted a troubling picture. "Emily, can you show me what you drew?" Dr. Orloff asked gently. Emily shook her head, glancing at Mark, who watched her with an unsettling intensity. "It's okay, Emily." "The doctor is nice," Mark said, but his voice held an edge of threat. Dr. Orloff proceeded with a physical examination, listening to her heart and checking her temperature. But when he pressed on her abdomen, Emily flinched. "Does it hurt?" he asked. She nodded, her face revealing not just pain but something deeper, fear. "Let's do an ultrasound to get a better look," he decided. As they walked to the ultrasound room, Emily clutched her drawing tightly, even as she lay on the examination table. Dr. Orloff applied the cold gel to her stomach, and she shivered. But what appeared on the screen shocked him to his core. His hand trembled as he stared at the images. There were scars and signs of previous surgeries, impossible for a child so young. Even more alarming was that the scars appeared to be healing. What is this?" he muttered under his breath. "Is something wrong?" Mark asked, irritation creeping into his voice. Dr. Orloff continued to study the screen, his heart racing. At that moment, Emily's drawing slipped from her hands and fell to the floor. The image depicted a man in a white coat with red eyes and a syringe dripping blood. A chill ran down Dr. Orloff's spine. This was no mere child's fantasy. "Emily," he asked softly, his voice shaking. "Who is this man in your drawing?" She remained silent, tears streaming down her cheeks, heavy and silent, as if she had learned that even crying was a luxury she could not afford. In that moment, Dr. Orloff realized that something horrific had happened to this child, and perhaps it was still ongoing. With a barely audible whisper, Emily said, "Mommy told me to run, but I couldn't." The room fell into a suffocating silence. Dr. Orloff's hand continued to tremble, and the evidence on the monitor was undeniable. The terrifying truth was beginning to surface. That night, Dr. Orloff couldn't sleep. The images from Emily's ultrasound haunted him. The scars on her small body were not accidental, they were deliberate. But why? The next morning, he cautiously began to ask his colleagues if they had seen any children who had undergone abdominal surgeries recently. Nurse Kate frowned. Well, there was a child with appendicitis a few days ago. We sent him to a larger hospital. We don't perform many surgeries on children here, she explained. Dr. Orloff nodded, feeling a sense of urgency. During his lunch break, he wandered the hospital, hoping to find a clue. In the basement, while passing the supply closet, he encountered Anna, an elderly janitor who had worked there for over 20 years. She considered the hospital her second home, having lost her husband years ago. Anna, did you happen to see a girl named Emily yesterday? He asked. The woman paused, her hand stilling as she held a rag. Emily? The 6-year-old? Yes, I remember her. She was here with another woman, Anna recalled. Dr. Orloff's heart raced. What did this woman look like? Average height, wavy hair down to her shoulders. Oh, she always wore a blue necklace, a little butterfly pendant. Emily loved to touch it, Anna said, her eyes lighting up with the memory. Dr. Orloff quickly jotted down notes. Do you remember her name? He pressed. Zoe, I think. I heard it at the reception, Anna replied. But it's strange. That Zoe always called Emily sweetheart. The man yesterday just called her by her name, and Emily seemed afraid of him. Dr. Orloff's suspicions deepened. Have you seen Zoe recently? He asked. Anna shook her head. Last time was at the end of March. She came in with Emily, but after that, I never saw her again. End of March. Dr. Orloff recalled that time. There had been an emergency in the hospital. A young woman had been brought into the ICU. Do you remember the patient who came in around that time? He inquired. Anna's face darkened. Oh, that Zoe. She was brought in at night. Such a shame, so young. What happened to her? Dr. Orloff pressed. They said it was a medical error. She had surgery at another hospital, and something went wrong. They had to transfer her here. But she didn't make it through the night, Anna said, shaking her head sadly. Dr. Orloff's mind raced. If Zoe was Emily's mother and had died in March due to a medical mistake, then who was the man with Emily? Was he truly her father? Do you remember anything else about that night? He asked. As Anna cleaned, she frowned in thought. There was something odd. Before she lost consciousness, Zoe kept mumbling, "Take care of Emily. And if they find out, Emily is in danger." I don't know what she meant, but her voice was desperate. A chill ran down Dr. Orloff's spine. A grim picture was beginning to form. That evening, he pulled up the archived records of the patient admitted in March. Zoe P. Johnson, 29 years old. Cause of death, shock from excessive bleeding during surgery. The referring hospital was a private plastic surgery clinic in Chicago. Why would Zoe go there? Dr. Orloff pondered. What kind of surgery had she undergone? He called the clinic. Hello, I'm inquiring about a patient named Zoe Johnson who was admitted in March. Oh, that case, the voice on the other end changed. It's closed. We agreed not to discuss it further. Everything has been settled with the family. I'm sorry, but I can't provide any more information. The call abruptly ended, leaving Dr. Orloff with a growing sense of dread. They were hiding something. That evening, while returning home, Anna spotted Emily again. The girl was with the same man as before, standing outside a pharmacy. Anna watched from a distance as Emily held the crumpled piece of paper, drawing again. When the man entered the pharmacy, Anna approached Emily cautiously. Emily, she called softly. Emily looked up, her eyes still filled with fear. I remember you, Grandma, she said quietly. Anna's heart ached. Do you miss your mommy? Anna asked gently. Emily nodded silently and showed her drawing. This time, it was different. The same man in the white coat with red eyes was there, but next to him was the word Mommy, written backward. Emily, who is this man in your drawing? Anna asked. Emily glanced around before whispering, Mommy said to run. She said this man does bad things, but Mommy couldn't run away. Anna's heart sank. What kind of bad things? He took something from Mommy's belly, and it hurt her very much. Just then, the man emerged from the pharmacy. Emily quickly hid her drawing and fell silent. Hello, ma'am, he greeted awkwardly. Anna scrutinized him closely. He didn't resemble a father at all. His behavior around Emily felt unnatural, and most importantly, the look in Emily's eyes told her everything she needed to know. You're Emily's father, right? I haven't met you before, Anna said, trying to keep her voice steady. Yes. And you are, he replied, his expression stiffening. I'm Anna. I work at the hospital. Emily's mother and I were friends. The man's face froze for a moment. Zoe was a good person. It's such a shame she's gone. Yes, it is, Anna replied, her heart racing. He took Emily's hand. But we have to go now. Wait a moment, Anna interrupted. Emily, would you like a candy? Emily nodded gratefully, but the man quickly interjected, no, thank you. Emily, you can't have sweets. But Mommy said I could, Emily whispered. The man's face tightened again. Emily, I told you, Mommy is gone. Tears welled in Emily's eyes, but she didn't cry out loud. Seeing this, Anna felt a deep sense of unease. That night, Anna sat at her kitchen table, flipping through an old photo album filled with memories from the hospital where she had worked for decades. The black and white photographs captured the early days of the facility, showcasing young doctors and nurses, all smiling brightly. As she turned the pages, her gaze fell upon one particular face, a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to the figure drawn by her granddaughter, Masha. The name beneath the photograph was obscured, deliberately marked out. Intrigued, Anna grabbed a magnifying glass and focused intently. Finally, she deciphered the name, Paul Morozov, the head of anesthesiology. A chill ran down her spine. Why had someone chosen to erase his name? And why had Masha drawn him? The next morning, Anna arrived at the hospital earlier than usual, her mind racing with thoughts of the photograph. The name Paul Morozov echoed in her head. She descended to the break room in the basement, where she began examining more old photographs lining the walls. These images chronicled the hospital's history from its inception to the present day, capturing moments of joy and hardship alike. One photograph caught her attention, a staff group shot from 1998. The young doctors and nurses beamed at the camera, but one woman stood out. Anna's hands trembled as she recognized her. It was Zoe, Masha's mother. But that didn't make sense. Anna had always believed Zoe had only visited the hospital as a patient. Why was she in a staff photo? Upon closer inspection, Anna noticed a name tag on Zoe's chest, Nurse Zoe Peterson. Around her neck hung a blue necklace with a butterfly pendant. The caption beneath the photo read, Welcome Evening for New Employees, 1998. New nurse, Assistant Zoe Peterson, and Head of Anesthesiology Paul Morozov. Again, that name, Paul Morozov. Flipping through the album hurriedly, Anna stumbled upon something shocking. In a 1999 photo, Zoe Peterson's name was crossed out with a black marker, as if someone had done it intentionally. By 2000, Zoe had completely vanished from the photographs. What happened? Anna muttered to herself. Suddenly, a voice interrupted her thoughts. Anna, what are you doing here? It was Dr. Orloff, a colleague from the hospital. Oh, Victor, she replied, startled. I was just looking at some old photographs. Dr. Orloff stepped closer, examining the picture she was holding. I think I've seen this woman before. That's Masha's mother, Anna said, her voice trembling. But it seems she worked here before. A look of genuine surprise crossed Orloff's face. The same Zoe who passed away in March? Yes, that's her. Strange, though. Why was her name crossed out since 1999? They continued to examine the photographs together, and Dr. Orloff soon noticed another detail. Anna, look at this. Paul Morozov also disappeared from the photos after 1999. It was true. Until 1998, Paul Morozov had appeared in numerous pictures as the head of anesthesiology, but starting in 1999, he was nowhere to be found. Something must have happened for both of them to vanish simultaneously, Anna mused. Suddenly, a memory struck her. Oh, I remember. In 1999, there was a huge scandal at the hospital. A lot of medical narcotics went missing from the operating room. Medical narcotics? Dr. Orloff asked, surprised. Yes, fentanyl and other drugs. The police even came, but they never found the culprit. The whole hospital was buzzing with rumors. Could Zoe and Paul have been involved somehow? Orloff suggested cautiously. Anna nodded. It's possible they both left quietly because of it. Victor was piecing together a troubling puzzle. Zoe had worked there. She could have been implicated with Morozov in something. Then she had left. 20 years later, Zoe died due to a medical error, and now her daughter, Masha. Do you remember any details from that time? Orloff asked. Anna paused, recalling. Zoe suddenly submitted her resignation, but just days before, she seemed very anxious. She was always looking over her shoulder, whispering on the phone. She seemed scared, as if someone was following her. Oh, yes. Anna exclaimed suddenly. Zoe told me something strange. If anything happens to me, please take care of my daughter. Her daughter? Orloff asked, surprised. Was Masha already born then? No, Zoe was pregnant. She was already showing. A chill ran down Victor's spine. So, even 20 years ago, Zoe sensed danger for herself and her child. Do you know where Zoe went? He asked. She mentioned going to New York. Wanted to start a new life, but then we lost contact. They both stared at the photograph in silence. Suddenly, Anna noticed something else. Look here. She pointed to the corner of the 1998 photo. A small note was attached. Zoe, be careful. They suspect you. Signed PN. The initials matched Paul Morozov. It seemed he had warned Zoe. Dr. Orloff read the note carefully. Interesting. Who did he mean? At that moment, the door to the break room swung open. The facilities manager walked in. Victor, Anna, what are you doing here? Just looking at old photographs, Orloff replied calmly. The manager glanced at the picture, and his expression tightened momentarily. Those times bring back a lot of bad memories. He hesitated before continuing. There were illegal things happening in the hospital back then. Some doctors were stealing medical narcotics. That's why Zoe and Morozov left. I know Zoe left because of her pregnancy, but Morozov was the main one? Anna and Orlov exchanged worried glances. Yes. During surgeries, he used extra doses of anesthetics on patients, keeping the leftovers for himself to sell illegally. So, Zoe was involved? Orlov asked cautiously. The manager shook his head. On the contrary, Zoe wanted to report him, but Morozov threatened her. She was pregnant, and he warned her he would harm her child. Victor felt a wave of nausea. That's why Zoe couldn't say anything. Yes, the manager sighed. In the end, she quietly resigned and moved to New York. Morozov just disappeared. It was as if he fled. Is there a chance he could return? Anna asked, her voice trembling. The manager looked at them, his eyes glinting in the dim light. If he comes back, he'll want revenge on Zoe for trying to turn him in. At that moment, both Orlov and Anna thought of the same thing. Zoe was gone, but her daughter, Masha, was alive. If Morozov had indeed returned, he might seek revenge through her. Anna looked again at Zoe's face in the photograph. Now she could clearly see the fear hidden behind her bright smile. Zoe! Anna whispered softly. What you feared has truly happened. They all came to the same conclusion: Masha was in danger. That night, Victor couldn't sleep. He kept returning to the manager's words and the photographs from 20 years ago. Paul Morozov, Zoe Peterson, the disappearances, and the missing drugs, it was all connected. Late that evening, he glanced once more at Masha's ultrasound picture. The next morning, Dr. Orlov received the results of additional tests, CT scans, and blood work. When he saw them, he turned pale. There were signs of multiple surgeries in Masha's abdomen. But even more shocking was the blood test result. Traces of powerful anesthetics, propofol and fentanyl, the very drugs that had gone missing from the hospital 20 years ago, were found in her blood. Victor's hand trembled. This was not just child abuse. Someone had performed illegal medical procedures on this little girl. He immediately decided to report it to the police. However, as he arrived at the police station, he witnessed an unexpected scene. The man who had come with Masha was talking to a police officer. Dr. Orlov watched their conversation from his car. The man was filling out some form while the officer listened intently, nodding occasionally. After a while, the man exited the station. Victor hurried inside. Hello. I'd like to discuss the individual who just filed a report. The officer looked up. Are you here about the child? Yes. What was his report about? The officer checked the form. A Mr. Konstantin Volkov has filed a complaint. He claims that the doctor treating his daughter is imposing unnecessary examinations and making unfounded accusations, causing psychological trauma to the child. Victor was stunned. Volkov? He claimed to be Masha's father? Yes, he asserted he is her biological father. Are you the doctor in question? Dr. Orlov hesitated. If he argued now, after a complaint had already been filed, his words might seem unconvincing. I just came to provide information. Did you verify Mr. Volkov's identity? Of course, we checked his ID and he presented a certificate of kinship. The officer showed him the document. Victor examined it closely and noticed a discrepancy. The date of birth for Masha didn't match. Officer, this date is incorrect. If Masha is 6 years old now, the officer double-checked. That's odd. According to this date, she would be 8. When was this document issued? Yesterday. Victor's doubts turned into certainty. It seemed Volkov had hastily forged the certificate after his visit with Masha. Listen, as a doctor, I'm telling you, Masha has serious medical issues. There's a high likelihood of child abuse, but her father claims you're conducting unnecessary procedures. Just then, Victor's phone rang. It was Anna. Victor, there's trouble. Masha is missing. That man, Konstantin, took her away somewhere. She looked at me as if asking for help. She's definitely in danger. Victor quickly turned to the officer. We need to find the child immediately. Volkov ran off with Masha. But he's her biological father. No, he's not. The documents are forged, and Masha is clearly being abused. Dr. Orlov pulled out the test results. Look, there are traces of illegal surgeries and anesthetics in her system. The officer glanced at the papers and grew serious. Is this true? Absolutely true. And her mother died in March due to a medical error, which also looks suspicious. The officer immediately reported to his superiors, and a search for Konstantin Volkov and Masha began. Meanwhile, Anna decided to search for her granddaughter herself. She began asking people near the pharmacy where Volkov was last seen. The owner of a nearby stationery store recounted, "Yes, I saw him yesterday. He got into a taxi with a girl and told the driver to take them to some quiet place." A quiet place? Anna asked, her heart racing. Yes. The girl was trying to escape the whole time, and he gave her something to eat. It looked like candy. Anna's heart sank. It could have been a drug. Did you happen to catch the taxi number? No. Just that it was a blue car. Anna began calling all the taxi companies. One driver finally responded. Yes, I drove a man with a girl from the hospital area out to an abandoned house. To an abandoned house? Yes. An old cottage on the outskirts of town has been vacant for years. Anna quickly jotted down the address and called Dr. Orlov. Victor, I know where Masha is. Dr. Orlov, along with the police, immediately headed to the address. The abandoned cottage was located in a secluded area. The night was dark and eerily quiet as the police approached the abandoned house on the outskirts of Seattle. Officer Thompson paused, listening intently. Do you hear that? Sounds like a dog barking outside, he remarked, glancing at his partner, Officer Martinez. The silence from within the house was unsettling. Police. Open up. Thompson called, knocking on the door. There was no response. Anna, Masha's grandmother, peered through a grimy window and gasped. Victor! In here, she shouted, her heart racing. The officers forced the door open, and the sight that met them was chilling. Konstantin Volkov lay sprawled on the floor, lifeless. Empty pill bottles littered the ground, alongside a crumpled note. The handwriting was shaky. She knew too much. I was just following orders. I didn't know she left a recording. Victor Orlov, the doctor who had been investigating the case, knelt beside the body and spotted a small recorder. He pressed play, and a familiar voice filled the room. If my daughter survives, she will remember everything. And when she does, you will pay for everything. A soft rustle from upstairs drew their attention. They climbed the creaky staircase, and in a dimly lit room, they found Masha, huddled in a closet, clutching her mother's old t-shirt, silent tears streaming down her face. Anna gently pulled her out and enveloped her in a warm embrace. Masha trembled but seemed to find solace in her grandmother's arms for the first time in a long while. But the danger was far from over. The mastermind behind Volkov's actions, the one who had issued the orders, was still at large. After bringing Masha home, Anna became her temporary guardian with police approval, but unease gnawed at her. Until the man who controlled Volkov was found, Masha would remain in peril. That night, as Masha slept, Anna rummaged through an old box filled with letters and photos exchanged between her and Masha's mother, Zoe, 2 decades ago. Perhaps there was a clue hidden within. As she sifted through the papers, she stumbled upon Zoe's last letter, dated 1999. Annie, I think it's time to leave. What's happening at the hospital has crossed all boundaries. Especially what Director Morozov is doing, it's beyond words. I'm pregnant and can't intervene directly, but what he's doing to the patients is not just drug trafficking. It's much more serious. I overheard him talking about an organization, and he mentioned that orders come from above. If something happens to me, please take care of my daughter. I don't want her involved in this dirty business. Anna's hand shook as she read the letter. An organization? So Morozov was taking orders from someone else. The next morning, she shared the letter's contents with Dr. Orlov, and they decided to dig deeper into the events of 20 years ago. Victor descended into the hospital's basement archives, rifling through old documents, employee lists from 1999, surgical logs, and medication records. He soon uncovered a shocking fact: the amount of missing medical narcotics in 1999 was staggering. One person couldn't have done this, he muttered. This was clearly a group operation. Meanwhile, Anna discovered another item in the basement, an old, dusty photograph of the hospital's board of directors from 1999. One name was blacked out. That's odd, she murmured. Victor took a closer look with a magnifying glass. Director MM, he read, frowning. Wait, could this be Morozov? Anna exclaimed. Was he the director? As they continued their investigation, they uncovered the shocking truth. Morozov was not just the head of anesthesiology, he was the puppet master of the hospital, a member of the board of directors. Moreover, his father had been one of the founders of the institution. That's why he could pull off such schemes, Anna said, nodding in realization. Victor dug deeper into the financial reports from 1999 and found that the hospital had been in severe debt, yet there were sudden large cash inflows during those months. Illicit money, he pondered. Most likely from drug sales. Anna found another document, an internal report from December 1999 detailing the investigation into Morozov. It cited suspicions of illegal drug trafficking and unauthorized medical procedures on patients, along with connections to an external organization. However, due to Morozov's sudden disappearance, the investigation had been halted. The nurse associated with him, Zoe Petrov, had also resigned around the same time, and her whereabouts were unknown. They exchanged glances, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together. Morozov wasn't just a criminal, he was part of a larger organization, using the hospital as a base for his illegal experiments. Zoe had discovered this and tried to speak out, but Morozov had threatened her, taking advantage of her pregnancy. In the end, she had to flee. But why did he disappear so suddenly? Anna asked. Victor continued to sift through the files and finally found another lead. Look, there was a police raid at the hospital in December 1999. An anonymous tip-off. That's likely why Morozov vanished, he explained. An anonymous tip-off? Anna whispered. That must have been Zoe. As they prepared to leave, Anna felt a sense of foreboding. What organization was Morozov involved with? And why had they come after Zoe and Masha 20 years later? That evening, Anna gently asked Masha, "Sweetheart, do you remember what that scary man said?" Masha hesitated, then quietly replied, "He said he was looking for something that Mommy hid." What did she hide? Yes, Mommy hid something important somewhere. If he finds it, he'll do the same thing to me that he did to Mommy. Anna's heart raced. Perhaps Zoe had left behind some evidence. Masha, did mommy have any special things? Maybe a place she loved? Masha nodded. Her necklace. There was something in the blue butterfly. What was in it? Anna pressed. A little piece of paper. Mommy said to never lose it. Without wasting a moment, Anna called Dr. Orloff. Victor, please check among Zoe's belongings for a blue butterfly necklace. The next day, Orloff found Zoe's things in storage, and indeed, among them was the necklace. When he opened it, he discovered a tiny folded piece of paper inside. Unfolding it, he paled. The paper contained all the evidence against the organization involved in illegal medical activities for the past 20 years. Names, a structure chart, and details of ongoing crimes were all laid out. At the center of it all was the name of the real leader, the one still at large. Zoe had recorded everything before her death. Finally, the moment had come to reveal the truth. The paper from the necklace contained shocking information, a complete scheme of an organ trafficking organization that had been operating for 20 years. The mastermind behind this network was none other than Gregory Sokolov, the current chairman of the board at the Seattle State University Hospital. Dr. Orloff's hands trembled as he reread the lines. From 1999 to 2019, Sokolov had led the criminal network, with Morozov merely a pawn. Their victims were patients without families and people from vulnerable backgrounds. In March 2019, nurse Zoe Petrov discovered this and began gathering evidence, but she was found out and eliminated. The last line struck Orloff harder than anything else. Next target, Masha. The child's organs have already been reserved for a foreign buyer. After my elimination, they plan to abduct Masha. Victor immediately contacted the police, but Sokolov had already vanished. There was nothing found at his home or the hospital. Anna and Masha were placed under police protection, but anxiety lingered. Sokolov was too powerful, he could easily find a way to reach the child. Days later, a lead emerged. It was suspected that Sokolov was hiding at his old cabin on the outskirts of Seattle, a property he had owned for 20 years. Investigators believed he conducted secret operations there. Anna, accompanied by the police, set out for the cabin. Masha was left in a safe place, but there was hope that evidence could be found inside the house. As they approached, an ominous silence enveloped them. A dog was tied up outside, whining and barking. The police searched the house thoroughly but found no sign of Sokolov. However, in the basement, they uncovered a horrifying scene. Makeshift operating tables, unidentified bodies. Anna felt her stomach churn. How many innocent lives had been lost here? On the second floor, they stumbled upon something even more disturbing. One room was covered with photographs and files of victims. Among them were pictures of Zoe and Masha. A thick red cross marked Zoe's photo, while Masha's was labeled in process. Monsters, Anna whispered, trembling with rage. But the most terrifying discovery awaited them in the attic. There were decades' worth of records, profits from organ trafficking, correspondence with foreign buyers, lists of victims. Hundreds of names were documented as having died from medical errors or unknown causes. Anna looked at the lists and wept, thinking of how many families grieved, unaware of the truth. In the corner of the attic, she found something else, old tapes labeled "Last Message." Anna inserted one into an old tape recorder. Zoe's voice echoed through the room. "If someone is listening to this, it means I'm no longer alive. In recent months, I've witnessed something terrible. An organization for organ trafficking operates in our hospital, led by Chairman Sokolov and Pavel Morozov. They kill innocent people and sell their organs." The recording continued. "I've gathered all the evidence, transactions, a list of buyers, information about the victims. I hid it in Masha's necklace. If I die, I believe someone will find it one day, and the truth will come out. Zoe's voice trembled. Now they've set their sights on Masha. They say her organs are already reserved for a buyer overseas. I will do everything to protect her, even if it costs me my life. The recording ended with her sobs. Anna, tears streaming down her face, listened to the other tapes. They contained the last messages of other victims, all like a will, left in anticipation of their own deaths. It was then that Anna realized Sokolov and his people were not just involved in organ theft, they had orchestrated everything so that victims could never tell the truth. But Zoe was different. She fought until the end, trying to protect her daughter, believing that one day the truth would be revealed. Subscribe to the channel,